Hello everyone and welcome to another video for my Patreon feed. If you don't know my Patreon channel, it is called patreon.com/elephantbfx. And this video is completely free, so thank you very much to all my Patreons for supporting the channel. This is mostly made for you, but everyone is welcome to watch this video. So I have a few slides here that I like to go through in the next few minutes. I promise it's not gonna be too long or boring, hopefully. So the other day, like a couple of weeks ago, I stumbled upon this presentation from Apple. I believe it's the Apple developers presentations, if that is a thing. And they showed some photogrammetry tools that I believe they are part of the RealityKit that they are shipping with iOS and macOS, or they will be shipping that very, very soon. So I thought that I would give it a go. I definitely want to try more photogrammetry tools. I'm a big fan of photogrammetry, and as you know, if you are a member of my Patreon, I've been using photogrammetry in the visual effects industry for something around 15 years or so. So I'm quite familiar with a lot of photogrammetry software and multiple photogrammetry workflows and so on. So I really wanted to give this a try. So I wanna mention a few things, and then I wanna do a quick demo using the RealityKit. So the idea behind this test is, as I wrote here, full photogrammetry pipeline without leaving the macOS ecosystem, which I don't know if it's a thing or not. I mean, it is not really a full photogrammetry pipeline, because that would involve capturing the data, processing the data, and creating the final assets based on photogrammetry. That is not what this video is about. It is about capturing the data and processing the data, but it wouldn't be about actually creating the assets using the photogrammetry pipeline. So for that, you of course need extra tools like any 3D modeling application, sculpting applications, texture painting applications, something that you can use for projecting photos and so on. So that is obviously outside of the macOS ecosystem, but at least the first two stages, capturing the data and processing the data, it is something that you can do with the RealityKit. You don't need any extra software, which is great, because obviously less software is always better. And of course, that would involve also not spending money, which is also great. So let me mention a few things before jumping into the demo. First of all, requirements. You need macOS Monterey 12 beta. You need this operating system to use the RealityKit and the tools that I'm gonna show you later. I don't think you can use it with current version of macOS, so you definitely need the beta. Of course, that's not ideal because beta always means less stability and so on, but for this test, it worked just fine. You also need Xcode 13, which is also a beta. And same thing, you can download both of these if you sign up for the Apple developers, if you create an Apple developers account. It is free to download all of these, so you can just go ahead and do it yourself. And finally, of course, you need a decent Mac computer, an M1 chip preferred, of course, because apparently it's much faster. So I recently got a MacBook Air with the M1 chip. I think it's the top specs of the MacBook Air, which is obviously not a pro computer or anything that I would use for working in visual effects, but it is a really great companion for the work that I do. For the capturing method, I'm just gonna go through these very, very fast, because if you are into photogrammetry, this is something that you know very well. Also, if you go to my Patreon channel, I have plenty of videos and tutorials about photogrammetry, and I also have a course about photogrammetry, in-depth course that is a few hours long, where I go through different photogrammetry situations, and I explain very deeply how to capture the data, what equipment to use to capture the data, and so on. It's probably a little bit outdated, that course, but I have other videos in my Patreon channel. Anyway, the capturing method would be the same no matter what software you use or what equipment you use. But just to summarize this very quickly, of course, you need really good photographs, and that it doesn't matter if you use X software or Y software. It doesn't mean anything. Your input has to be good. So you as a photographer or as a data wrangler, you need to capture good material on set. So of course, again, this is I'm going to go through this very quickly, and there are more things involved in the capturing method and capturing workflows, but you need flat lighting as much as possible. Not completely flat, because you still need to capture some volume data. But when I say flat, I mean basically some kind of overcast lighting. Of course, if you can control the lighting in an interior studio, it would be much better. But if you're working outside, overcast lighting would be great. If you get like the sun hitting your subject, it's not gonna turn out very, very well. So flat lighting, you need lots of overlapping. And I know that some people don't like to do a lot of overlapping. I honestly speaking, I always capture way more data than I need. And I know that that can be counterproductive, because that would mean managing way more files, way more storage that you might need, and also a longer processing time, of course. But I try to put quality on the top of my list. So I know with a lot of overlapping, I'm going to get more quality. And of course, you can always discard images before processing them. So if you can spend 5 more minutes on set capturing data, it would be ideal, at least in my point of view. You need texture detail in the subject that you are capturing. If you are capturing an object that is flat, photogrammetry is probably not the best method, and you might have to use Cyberscan or other methods, but you need texture detail in the subject. By texture detail, I mean surface detail and texture detail equally. Like if you're capturing sand, or if you're capturing grass or things like that, it's very hard, it's very tricky, because the texture detail is quite uniform, so it would be quite complicated to capture such as objects. But if you are capturing, let's say, a tree or a rock, there is plenty of detail there, so it's much easier. And of course, you need to avoid reflections as much as possible. Sometimes when we're capturing subjects that have a lot of reflections, like a car or something like that, you need to treat the subject with some kind of spray painting and something like that to kind of get rid of the reflections. Reflections basically turn out as holes in the photogrammetry. So don't use glass, or don't use any very reflective materials. And then as an input device, you can use whatever you want. I tried this software, this RealityKit software with DSLRs, mirrorless cameras. I tried it with different phones. I tried it with an iPhone, with a Samsung phone. You can input the images from whatever device. In this case, because again, the whole point of this demo or this video is to do the capturing and the processing within the macOS ecosystem. We're going to be using an iPhone camera. And you can also use depth data. You know that iPhone 12 and other smartphones like the Samsung Galaxy S21, which I have here, you can capture depth data. And you can use the depth data in the photogrammetry process to actually get real world measurements, which is great, because most of the time photogrammetry software is just guessing. So then you need to, of course, not only capture the images, but also capture references for the scale and volume, and then do it by hand. With depth data, all this will come for free. I have to say that I haven't tested it much with depth data. I tested it with photos from a Samsung Galaxy S21, and the data was available there, and the photogrammetry software used the depth data to generate the point cloud, but it didn't work. It failed completely. I don't know if that is because it doesn't understand the depth data from a Samsung phone and you need to use an iPhone 12. That I don't know, but I will do more tests with an iPhone as soon as I have one available for me. Then for processing, naming convention and sequencing, we don't care at all. I think this is a thing in all photogrammetry software these days. It wasn't in the past, but now you don't really, the software doesn't care the way you name your photos, which is great because, renaming stuff, even if you use scripts and other automation tools, is not the most pleasant thing to do. So you can feed the software with whatever photos, with whatever naming convention and whatever sequencing. And by sequencing, I mean that the photos don't have to be in order. You don't have A, B, C, it can be whatever. So that's also good. In terms of file formats for your photos, I'm not 100% sure. What I know is that JPEGs work, PNG also works, and Hike, which I believe is the iPhone file format for photos, also worked. I tried those three. I don't know about other formats. I'm pretty sure that if you feed the software with a proprietary raw file format from whatever mirrorless camera or DSLR camera, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't work. I haven't tested it, but that's my feeling. So you would probably have to convert that to other formats. EXR, which is the standard file format that we use in Visual Effects, I haven't tried, so I don't really know. But in my experience, you shouldn't use any 16-bit or HDR photographs to, well, not that you shouldn't use, but I wouldn't recommend it because you shouldn't use that for generating point clouds because the files are bigger, the depth information is also bigger, and it will take more time to calculate a point cloud. So low dynamic range images like JPEGs or PNGs, they work perfectly fine. For texturing, of course, it's a different story. You want resolution, you want bit depth, you want no compression at all. So that would require using the HDRI photos for texturing, but that's a different thing. That's for the creation of the assets. It's not for the creation of the point clouds using photogrammetry. Again, you also generate texture maps, and those, I don't know if you can change it, but in the tests that I've done, they come out as PNG. And I wrote here that flags can be mixed. And what I mean by that is that this is very clever, I think. I don't know if other photogrammetry software does the same, but this one does. And that is that, and by flags, I'm going to show you flags in a minute, but those are the options that you use in the photogrammetry software. Like you can tell the software, I want to use a medium quality point, I want to generate a medium quality point cloud or a high quality point cloud, or I want to do less overlapping or more overlapping. So there is a bunch of flags that I'm going to show you later. You can combine them, and the software is smart enough to reuse the previous flag. So for example, if you generate a low resolution point cloud and a medium resolution point cloud at the same time, the low resolution point cloud will be created before. And then when the software is creating the medium resolution point cloud, the information from the low resolution point cloud will be used. It's not like it has to start from scratch to calculate the medium resolution point cloud. And again, I'm not sure if other software like Agisoft or RealityKit do the same, but I don't believe so. So this is great because you can generate both and you can save a little bit of time there, or a lot sometimes. And again, all of this is in beta, meaning that test it by yourself. Be aware that some things might crash, but soon is we're gonna get an API and we're gonna get a user interface for these tools. Right now there is no user interface, so you need to do everything from Xcode and from the terminal. I'm gonna show you in a minute. It's really, really simple. but soon enough we're going to get some applications and user interfaces for macOS. And I believe that for iOS devices like iPhone and iPad, very soon there would be available a capturing application that will help you. It will guide you to create the photos. I guess it would show you, or it will tell you if you have enough overlapping and if the lighting is good enough and all those kind of things. But again, you don't have to use any app to capture the photos. Okay, it's just the regular camera from your phone. And again, it can be iPhone, can be Samsung, it can be any smartphone, and it can be any camera. So, pros and cons of using this tool, again, in my humble opinion. And please consider that this is from a visual effects point of view. So I work in the film and television industries, and the only thing that I care is that. So if you work in another industry, like architectural industry or product visualization or car biz or whatever, engineering of any kind, just keep in mind that these pros and cons are from a visual effects point of view, meaning that maybe they don't apply to your industry and maybe you have different point of view. It doesn't have to match with mine, but that's totally fine, okay? So I just want to give you that piece of information, a little bit of context. So pros, it's very easy to use this software, even though it doesn't have a user interface yet. You have to use Xcode and the terminal is very, very, very easy. And I'm telling you because I'm not really a very technical person, so it's very easy. It's also very fast to generate the point clouds. I mean, from point A to point Z, I mean, to do the entire processing of the point cloud and generating the mesh and the textures is really fast. In my opinion, it's the fastest photogrammetry software that I've seen ever. It takes literally 10 minutes to do the entire thing with, well, of course, it depends on the data set that you're using, but I'm using data sets that go from 150 to 200 images. And again, the entire thing, it takes like 10 minutes with a MacBook Air M1. So I guess if you use like a better machine, it will be even faster. By the way, all the data, all the calculation of the data is using the CPU. Okay, this is not GPU or anything like that. It's all CPU. And again, in my opinion, it's the fastest photogrammetry software that I ever use in my life. So that's great. It is also reliable. And by reliable, I mean two things. First of all, it's reliable in the sense that even though it's a beta software, it never crashed to me. I mean, I probably use it with 20 different data sets, because with different sources, different images, different resolutions, different file formats. And if I did 20 tests, it never crashed. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's never going to crash. But so far, so good. It's pretty reliable in that sense. And it is also reliable in the output that you get. And by that, I mean that every time, I mean, after using the software like 4 or 5 times, I knew 100% what I would expect the next time. So the quality of the mesh generated, the quality of the textures, if the input is kind of the same, I always get the same output, which is great. I mean, that's what you want in visual effects, right? You want to anticipate, you want to know what's going to happen when you hit render, right? So in that sense, it's also very reliable. It is free, or quote unquote free, I guess. Well, no, I guess it's free because, I mean, you have to own a Mac computer, but if you own a Mac computer, it is free. So you don't need to spend any extra money on a different photogrammetry solution. That is also great. And Mac OS. And as you can see, I have this in pros and cons. So by pro, I mean that, well, if you own a Mac, you're probably very happy with the system and the computer and all of that. So you already have a Mac. So that is great. And you don't have to jump from macOS to Linux or to Windows to use other photogrammetry solutions, which is also great. I mean, everything is kind of under the same roof. So that's great. As a cons, And these are big cons. Okay, don't get me wrong. So far, I'm really liking the software, but the cons, in my opinion, are more important than the pros. So the first con is like it's there is very little you can do in terms of customization. So basically, the only options that you can use in this software is the quality of the point cloud or the generated mesh. Actually, yeah, it's the quality of the generated mesh. You cannot control the point cloud. And again, so far, okay, maybe once Apple publishes a user interface, maybe they will have more options. But so far, there is very little customization. You can control the quality of the output and the overlapping of the images, and that's it. So in my opinion, that's not enough control. You also don't have you also don't have control over the input and the output, in the sense that the only option you can do is again quality. That's it, pretty much. You cannot control the input. You cannot say I want to use this from the images or I want to use that. No, it will use everything as is. There is no control over that. And same thing for the output. You cannot control the point cloud. You cannot control the different amounts of polygons that you want to generate. There are, things that we usually do in Visual Effects, you cannot do with this software. Also, it's not fully integrated in a Visual Effects pipeline. What I mean by that is that if you use other solutions like Agisoft, Photoscan, or Reality Capture, those are software that they are integrated in a Visual Effects pipeline, or at least you can integrate them in a Visual Effects pipeline, meaning that you can do your point clouds, you can do your and you can actually export a point cloud. You can generate the mesh, the textures, and then you can take that to whatever 3D application. You can remesh it. You can take the asset back to the software, reproject the textures, decimate it. There is a bunch of things that we do in Visual Effects that you can do with other software. You cannot do, unfortunately, with this other software. So that is actually a huge con. And I also wrote macOS here as a con, because what I mean by that is like you are very limited to whatever the Apple guys decide to do with this tool, right? So I guess it is a pro and it is a con that this tool works only with macOS. And I wrote down here, is this a Visual Effects tool? And I have to say, no, this is not a Visual Effects tool. This cannot replace any other photogrammetry solution that I use at work. I don't see that happening, but it is a great companion, right? What I mean by that is you go on set, you capture thousands of images during the day, then you go back to your hotel room, and then you start doing the backups over the night. Sometimes you want to test if what you captured during the day is going to work when you send it to the Visual Effects facility and they use it 10 months later, right? You want to cover your back. You want to know that what you're capturing is actually good. So you can run this tool. You can run it from the terminal. It will take very little to create the mesh, and then you can judge better, right? You can see there, and even though the quality is not great because it's going to be much better later when you process it with real Visual Effects tools, you can judge. You can say, okay, this data that I captured this morning works fine. And if it's terrible and it doesn't work at all, then you know it. And that's actually much more valuable information, because next day you have another chance to capture the data. You can even run it while you are on set, because these computers have also this MacBook Air is also very quiet. It doesn't make a single noise. So yeah, you can run this tool while you're on set and see if everything kind of works as expected, even though you're going to use a different tool later on in the Visual Effects facility. Flags sample. So these are some of the flags that I'm using. I'm going to explain them to you in a couple of minutes. But again, it's very, very simple and very easy to use. But I'm going to do a live demo so you can actually see it better. But you can download this slide. So you have this here as a cheat sheet, if you will. And finally, there is some documentation in this website, so you can click on these links and you will get to the Apple developers website. And that was it really about this first part of this video. So again, here, that is that documentation website that I was mentioning. It is developer.apple.com, and you have the link here and in the slides. So if you play this video, this is like a almost half an hour video. You will get some more in-depth information. They don't really go in depth. It's more like we have this tool, this is how we use it, and this is what it creates. But they don't really go in depth. And here you have more resources, some documentation, you have some samples, so you can test by yourself, and yeah, pay a visit to this website because it's pretty interesting. So now let's have a look on how to use the tool. Okay, so for testing this tool, the first thing that I did is I created a folder here. As you can see, this is called macOS photogrammetry, and these are some of the data sets that I was using and some of the tests that I did. So let me show you maybe a couple of things here. So dataset actor 1. So this is the one of the data sets that I used, and this is, how many images do we have here? Oops. Let me see. Okay, so we have 239 images here. And again, this took like 10 minutes, so that's pretty good. These images, I mean, this is just like a standard photogrammetry capture. And as you can see here, the lighting is not great. The top of the head is overexposed, but it's good enough for doing this thing. These images, where they come from? These, I believe, they come from a Sony Alpha 6000, and yeah, and these are like 6000 by 4000 resolution. Let's see what else do I have. These ones here, kind of the same, but here I'm also using bracketing, and I fed the software with all the brackets without combining anything, just as they are. And it worked also very well. So I'm not sure, I think I am sure, but not 100% sure, that the output of the textures is not an HDRI, even though I'm using bracketing. I don't think the software has been created to do that. That is more like a visual effects thing that we do. So I don't think the software does that, but this works. Okay, different bracketing images, and it works fine. And these are from Nikon D800, and the resolution is 7000 by almost 5000. So pretty decent images. And then I also have this other data set here, and this one I actually use depth information from a Samsung Galaxy S. Can I see that here? Yeah, I don't remember if this is a S21 or the previous model, but it's a Samsung Galaxy with a depth camera. And this depth camera, it was readable by the software. I mean, the software recognized the depth data, but the output didn't work at all. So maybe I have it here and I can show you. Yeah, there you go. So this is the geometry generated by that point cloud, but that data set. And as you can see, it didn't work at all. So I don't really get it. If I don't use the depth data, this would have worked 100%. So my question is, the depth data, does it have to come from an iPhone? Maybe. Let's do more tests. And then I also have this other test, which is just a New Balance sneaker. Not a big deal, right? As you can see, the lighting is flat enough because I'm not getting any highlights or any shadow areas. So this is working very well. And as you can see, these ones actually come from an iPhone 12, I believe it is, right? iPhone 12 Pro Max. I'm not using any depth data here, okay? So these are just regular images. And again, to capture the images, you only need to use the camera application. You don't need any extra application. All right. I also have some data sets that Apple provided, like for example, let me see what I have those. This one, for example. So these are from Apple. And as you can see, well, of course, they are using a controlled lighting environment, like a white tent or something like that, where you get like a really nice flat lighting. So this would be ideal, of course. You don't always have access to that, but that would be ideal. And this is using what? Doesn't seem to have metadata here. Okay, they probably process the photos with whatever software, and then they got rid of the metadata, I assume. But it is hike, meaning that it comes from an iPhone. Okay, so I also have here this sample code, and I put it here, start from scratch. So this is a sample code, so you don't have to build, you don't have to write the code from scratch. It's very simple. Let me show it to you. So I'm gonna open Xcode beta. And again, it has to be Xcode 13 beta. And I'm gonna open this sample project that I have here. So that would be here, and then it would be sample code, start from scratch, and I'm gonna open this Hello Photogrammetry Xcode project. Trust and open. Okay, so first of all, you need to select this guy. You need to go to sign in and capabilities and make sure you have a team here. Otherwise it doesn't work. So I'm going to select my team, which is just me, and sign in certificate. This one has to be set to development. Okay. You need to do this first of all, otherwise it wouldn't work. Let me maximize this guy. Okay. Now, you can expand here. You can go to Hello Photogrammetry and you can select main. And this is the code that a sample code that is going to make this process work with RealityKit. Okay. It is very generic here. I mean, you can have a look. You can download this from Apple. I will probably attach this to this video as well, so you can get it from me with maybe some more samples. But basically what it's doing is what you would expect from a photogrammetry process, which is reading the images, extracting the metadata, generating a point cloud, and then basically generating a mesh and texture from it. You can have a look here, but it is basically like a batch process for all of that. But this doesn't really do much. Let me show you. I'm gonna go to product and I'm gonna click on archive. I basically want to generate a program out of this, or a executable file. Okay, so it is archiving, as you can see here. This is the progress, done. So I'm gonna save this in. Okay, so first of all, this is the name. I'm gonna call it Hello Photogrammetry. Distribute content. Build products. I'm gonna say yes. And now I need to save this somewhere. So I'm gonna do it here. In start from scratch, I'm gonna create a new folder that I'm gonna call builds. And now I'm gonna create a folder with the data, or the date of today, which is 2021-07-03. version 1. Let's do that. Click on export. And now if we go to this folder, we have builds and we have Hello Photogrammetry here. Okay. So let me do something. Can I copy the path here? Does this work in Apple? I hope so. So I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna open a terminal. So here in the terminal now, I'm gonna go to that directory. So that would be documents, elephant VFX, I don't even remember. Okay, there, sample code, start from scratch. And here I have my builds. And of course there is only one build. So I'm gonna go there. And as you can see, there is a bunch of folders inside. So then we have hello photogrammetry with the name of the date of the build, product, USR, local, bin, and this is where we have our program. So if I list here, I have something called hello photogrammetry. Let me execute that. So if I do hello photogrammetry, this is what I get. So the program is running, but it doesn't work because you need to add some extra flags, as you can see here. So the flags are the input folder, the output file name, then we have the D minus D flag, which stands for detail, minus O, which stands for sample ordering. Then we have minus F, which means feature sensitivity, and H for help. So as you can see, those are all the options that we have. That's what I said before. That's why I said before that this software doesn't give us a lot of control over the input and output, and these are the only settings or options available as for now. So detail, as you can see, we have preview, we have reduce, we have medium, full, and raw. And you have a little explanation here. That is the detail of output model in terms of mesh size and texture size. Then we have sample ordering, and then we have unordered and sequential. This doesn't really do much in terms of the mesh that you're going to create. This is mostly a feature that you can use for speed up a little bit your mesh generation. Because if it's an order, I guess the algorithm to kind of find the correlation or the sample points, the common points between photograph, it will take more time. If it's sequential, I guess it will take less time. Honestly speaking, I tried both and I didn't see much of a difference between different or multiple data sets. So I don't think it does a lot of impact in your mesh generation. And then we have feature sensitivity, which is normal or high. So, well, as you can see here, this is basically set to high if the scan object does not contain a lot of discernible structures, edges, or textures. So that means that if your subject lacks a lot of detail, like doesn't have a lot of surface detail or a lot of texture detail, these feature sensitivity should be set to high. I haven't used high yet because all the subjects that I tried, they have enough information. So normal works just fine. Okay, so now let's see how we can add those flags. And actually what I tend to do is, if you go here to Xcode again, you can add the flags here. So you just build the program with the flags inside, if you will. Otherwise, you can, of course, run it from here and just keep adding the flags. It is really up to you. I'm going to show you how to do it here. The format that you need to follow, remember that I had a sample for you in the slides. So if I go to my slides, here we are. Let me do perhaps something like this, and then something like that. Okay, so we can see what we are doing. Right. So go here to the parentheses, and here's where we can start adding the flags. So I'm gonna open a bracket, which is that. And first of all, you need the input folder. So I'm gonna open quotes, and I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go to my, whatever data set, it doesn't have to be anything specific. Let's use this one here. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna copy the path. Is there any other way to copy the path in macOS? Can you get the the menu on the top with the path. I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna paste that here, like that, and we need this name as well. I'm gonna copy that and paste it here. Okay, so that is the folder that contains all the images. Okay, cool. Then after the quote, just add a comma, hit enter, and add another line. And now we need the output directory. So I'm gonna open quotes again. I'm gonna add that one, and you don't need to have an existing directory here. You can actually create one here. So I'm gonna use exactly the same. I'm gonna do slash, and actually I didn't copy what I wanted, right? Let me double check. Okay, open quotes. I'm gonna copy exactly the same path, which is this. Okay, I'm gonna add it there, and now we need to add the folder. So I'm gonna call this one just 00 test. So it's at the very top of my folder structure. Right, but it is not only the folder, but the actual file. So I'm gonna add another slash here, and I'm gonna call this one test.usd set. Okay, so that would be my file. Maybe something that I can do, I can call it test underscore, and then what I usually do here is the quality that I'm generating. In this case, I'm gonna do, let's say, a raw quality. So I'm gonna say raw. Raw, of course, would be the best quality you can get from this software. Again, you had, if we go back to the terminal, you can see that we have preview, reduce, medium, full, and raw. So raw is the best quality you can get. Of course, it will take more time. But again, not very long. Cool. Let me add another comma, hit enter, and in a different line, we can start adding flags. So you would do quotes minus D, which is the detail. That is the detail flag, comma, and I'm gonna do raw. And again, here is where you write these flags, right? So you can write preview, reduce, medium, full, and raw. I'm just gonna do raw, comma, hit enter, and the next flag, it would be L. That L stands for, let me go here. We don't have it here actually, so I might have gotten that from the documentation. So L is the overlapping. So if you have a lot of overlapping, you can set that one to high. Or if you, sorry, the other way around. If you have very little overlapping, you need to set this one to high. Okay. If you have enough overlapping, which in my case is usually like that, or I have even like more than I need, I usually set this one to normal. So I'm gonna set it to normal, comma, and add the next flag. That is going to be minus O. That stands for the sequencing, okay? The sample ordering. So I'm gonna set that one to an order. Even though my photos are pretty much in order from left to right, top to top, middle, bottom, and then top and bottom, but it doesn't really matter. And again, from all the tests that I've done so far, I haven't noticed any impacts in processing time. I mean, by changing this flag. Okay, and the next one. Oops. And the next flag that I want to use is the F. remember F stands for feature sensitivity. So again, high if you have a subject that lacks a little bit of detail. Otherwise, you can just use normal. So let me do -F, comma, and I'm gonna set that one to normal. Okay, let me add a comma, and let me maximize this because I just want to check that everything is fine. So my first flag, it is the input folder where I have all the photos. That seems to be okay. Second one is my output file, which is going to be called testraw.usdz. And then we have all the flags, D for detail, set to raw, L for overlapping, set to normal, O for sample ordering, which is set to unordered, and F for, what was F? I don't even remember now. F said it is sensitivity, right? Yeah, so that one is set to normal. Okay. So now let me do another build. So I'm gonna set this one to archive. You can see the construction process here. Now it's archiving. It takes very little. It's a very simple program, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna distribute the content, build products, and I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna create a new build. 2021 0703 version 2. Export, and this should be done. So if we go to the terminal again, let me jump back a few times. Okay, we have the two builds here. So I'm gonna go to the second build, and now I'm gonna dive into the bin folder. Here we have the hello photogrammetry. So now, if we run this program, it is going to do everything automatically. We don't need to do anything else. It is a good idea if you do time dot slash, and now you just type the name of the program, which is hello photogrammetry. Okay, so something is bad here, as you can see, and that's probably because I made a mistake in the code, which is here, right? I forgot that minus. So again, let me archive this guy again. By the way, we can just launch it from here. Okay, you don't need to build the program. You can just click here and it will launch. But I just want to show you kind of like the final product, if you wish. So I'm going to do archive. Same thing as before. Okay, I'm gonna place it there, and now I guess we would have a new one, as you can see here, right? So that would be 4730, right? 47, there you go. Yeah, and I was saying that if we type time and then we execute that program, once the program has finished processing the geometry and creating the mesh, you're gonna get a timestamp, so you know actually how long does it take to do the entire project, the entire process. So I'm gonna hit that again. Is it complaining about the same thing? It does. Okay. Why is this complaining? Did they remove this flag? It is complaining about this flag, -L. That didn't happen before, but I just updated to the latest Xcode and the latest macOS. So I'm wondering if that flag doesn't exist anymore in the new version, which could be a thing, right? Let me run this one again. Yeah, seems like there is no L flag anymore. So I'm wondering if this is a new thing. Well, let me get rid of this flag. And build it again. I hope that's the thing, but that's definitely a new thing. It wasn't like that before. I'm using the beta 2 of Monterey. I was using the beta 1 before, so maybe that is something that came with the update. I'm gonna do in a folder. Okay. Let's try this again. There you go, and now it's working. Okay, so it was that flag. It seems like they don't use it anymore. That's weird. I mean, it has changed in 1 week. Okay, but as you can see, this is working now. And if I go to my folder structure here, we should have we are saving this where dataset sneaker 01. Okay, so dataset sneaker 01. There you go. And here we have a 00 test folder, and it is empty now. Once this is finished, we should get a USD set file. Okay, so it will take a while, and at some point we can have a look. But I ran this process already, so I can actually show you how this looks. So if I go to my dataset sneaker 01 USD set, this is how it looks. Okay, it is pretty cool that you can actually see the USD model here. And USD, you know, it's kind of like the new standard for file sharing in the visual effects industry, so that is great. You can also use reality converter that also comes with macOS, which is some kind of, I mean, I don't even know what this is, but the way that I see it or the way that I use it is some kind of preview software that you can use to see models. Basically, not everything works with reality converter. I don't really know what are the requirements. Like this one, yeah, this one didn't work for whatever reason. But no problem. If you don't want to use that one or that one doesn't work, you can just double click on this one and it's going to be open with Xcode, which is also pretty cool. So here is kind of the same thing. You can navigate here, you can orbit, you can pan, you can do everything. And then if you select this object, you can do some basic manipulation like translation, rotation, scaling, and all of that. And if you go here, you have some information like the amount of polygons. As you can see here, this is like 500,000, like 50,000 polygons, depending obviously on what resolution you use, like preview, normal, ultra, raw, you would get more or less polygons. Here you can also do things like I want to see the wireframe, and as you can see, this is a normal quality. This is not very high polygon count, but you know, it is good enough. So for just checking your photogrammetry output, I think this software works pretty well. You can also go here to the shading, and this has a PBR material that you can change for whatever. You can change this one to be Lambert, you can change this one to be constant, so you can actually see how the textures look like. As you can see, it's looking fairly okay. You can change some things here like reflectivity, transparency, and so on. I mean, this one is a PBR standard shader, so you can do anything you want. Actually, you can get rid of, you should be able to get rid of the texture if you just use like a color. So now you can actually see the mesh itself. Maybe it is a good idea to add a little bit of let's add a metallic, and maybe now play a little bit with the roughness, so you can actually see the shape very well. And as you can see, this is a pretty decent output. I mean, again, the input photos are not great, but you know, we just run the terminal, and that's it. You don't need to do anything else. So I consider this to be a pretty nice tool. Let me close this one down. In a few minutes, we should have this one available. I'm not going to wait that much, but I can show you a couple of screenshots that I have somewhere. Screenshots here. And this is, if you type time and then the name of the program, you're going to get this timestamp here. And as you can see here, this took like this amount of seconds, which is like what, 11 minutes or something. And this one, it took a little bit less. And what is fun is like this one, as you can see here, I use the raw quality, and in the other one, I use the normal quality, the medium quality. And it took a little bit more time. And obviously this model was much better in terms of resolution and fidelity. But yeah, this is what it takes, like 777 seconds. So something between 10 and 11 minutes. I think the longest data set that I processed, it was probably like 12 minutes for like 300 images. So I consider that pretty good. And again, I can show you some other yeah, like this one. This one is in raw quality, so we can have a look. And this one is one of the samples from Apple. Oops, I don't want to use Photoshop. Sorry, it's this one. So this one I generated myself, but using the photos provided from Apple. And as you can see here, it's pretty remarkable for 10 minutes, and for, you know, not doing anything, just waiting. You don't really have to take care of point clouds or anything. Okay, so this is how it works. And from this software, from Xcode, you can actually export. And I'm going to export this one just here. And you can select different formats here, like USD, as you can see here, but you have others like digital asset exchange and different things. So let's use, for example, digital assets exchange. I'm going to export that one. Should take nothing. So it's actually done. So if I go to that folder, where is that? That was the, no, sorry. It was in the build version 3, not that, sorry. I'm a little bit lost now. I think it is here. There you go. This is where I exported it. So you have the model, and you have also the texture, as you can see here. Of course, the UVs are automatically created by the photogrammetry tool, so you don't need to care about that. And as you can see, the image is a resolution of where is this information? Here. So it's an 8K map. So pretty decent. So again, this is not a tool that will replace anything in my VFX kit, but it is something that can complement. I can use as an extra tool, and I believe it can help me to do some of my tasks. So this was it. Very simple, as you can see, and hopefully you liked the video, and hopefully you can use this tool in your baggage as well. All right, have a good one. Bye.